Okay, Christina here to listen to some music, and today we are continuing on with Thick as a Brick, Part 2 by Jethro Tull. So I've already reacted to Part 1, Side 1. You can go see that on the channel if you'd like to. And I had a really great time with it. And I did put it directly on my playlist, and I have been listening to it ever since because I knew that eventually I'd be getting to Part 2 here. So here we are. And I have learned a few things because I went into the first part knowing nothing. But this time, I know a little bit more. So, for instance, it's not meant to be taken so seriously. And I was catching on to that in the first reaction. I kept saying, it seems serious, but there's this really humorous, light side to it. Well, I was right. This album is supposed to sort of make fun, be a spoof of concept albums. It's sort of the anti-concept album within its own concept album. I think that's really funny. I love it. I love that kind of humor. I love that kind of approach. This came out in 1972, so it's right there in the middle of all of the prog rock concept albums really taking off. So I understand. I get what he's trying to do. And I can just totally see that Anderson would be willing to do this. There's just something about his style of performance and delivery and his ideas. There's something comical to them. And so, of course, this is what he's going to do for a concept album. Of course. So last time we had a whole bunch of fun. We had fiddles and flutes and dances and stabby instruments and all sorts of fun, crazy things. So what are we in for this time? What are we going to discover? Well, on this channel, we discover a lot of things. As a professional classically trained musician, instrumentalist, vocalist, composer, and professor, I dive into all these things to discover in this music. We talk about the composition, the instruments, form, theory, performance aspects, and how we relate to it. Why do we like it? Or why maybe do we not like it? So, I'm really excited about this one. No more delaying. Let's listen. Okay, I think we're ready. Here we go. going to stop it there. I'm just going to laugh. That's what's coming up. I'm just going to go with it. Okay. Well, I definitely like this. It's very experimental, with a hint of seriousness, of course. But I definitely see the humor in it. It's not all humor, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of mastery happening here. In fact, it's very chaotic, and within that chaos, you have to have mastery. And it sounds like it's just so easy. So again, you know you're good at something when you make it look easy. So it definitely picked up where it left off with the wind blowing. But then we had some very interesting sounds. Flute and synthesizer. And again, we're back to all the duets and the trios. That was a main motif, an aesthetic or an instrumental motif that we had in part one. Lots of little duets, lots of little trios, lots of pairing of different instruments. Some pretty similar, which is kind of funny because you often don't want to put instruments that are too similar together because then they sort of cancel each other out. They compete with one another. But here, I think it works. It's a fun little trick. So then we had percussion and percussion and percussion and percussion. Whoa. Just okay. And then yet another funny duet with flute, but it's more of a simplistic version of flute. So almost like a Revolutionary War pipe, Pied Piper kind of sound, mixed with orchestral bells, the chimes, this. So, it's the long, looks like the doorbells, the long chimes, and you bonk them on the top with the mallet. I know that's the professional description. Never would have thought of that pairing, especially the way it was done. They kind of deviated a little bit from one another, but it was still really cool. And then on top of this percussion. So it was a full-on solo. It was really good. And then we had these unusual pauses, like a grand pause, GP, that's the technical term in classical music, where it's just a pause. It doesn't have to be metered. It can be if you need to hold the place exactly. But it's like a dramatic pause. Why it's there, I'm not quite sure. Maybe that will reveal itself as we go. But I did think I noticed that right before the music came in again after one of the pauses, the cymbal went choo-choo twice. And then it came in again and it went choo-choo-choo 3 times. Are we working up to something here? Okay, and we did hear a reprise of some of the previous words. And, well, actually, it might have been new words, but because before it was, see there, a son is born and now it's a man, which is a neat progression there. But there was also a change. Ooh, and maybe it's sort of a maturation, a maturing of the stabby instruments, the stabby stabs, which were really fun on the previous side. Bum, 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 bum. Really, really cool. I think I likened it to Rite of Spring last time by Stravinsky, where it just seems a little bit random, takes you by surprise, wakes you up a little bit. But this time it was distant and it was a really cool, round sound. I was like, ooh. And actually, some of the sounds so far seem a little bit technically more advanced somehow. I know it was done all at the same time, but there are some neat effects added to this stuff. Okay, and then I did hear the talking. So that's one reason why I was laughing. First of all, those empty spaces, the pauses there, I just think it's really clever. But then I was giggling because the talking in the background and going from side to side. Okay, so I'm trying to remember. Was Dark Side of the Moon out at this point? Was that 71 or 73? I'm blanking. I need to look it up. Hang on. I did the whole album. You would think I remember what year it came out. 73. So this came out first. This is 72. But at the same time, to me, it was sort of mimicking Pink Floyd. Just a little bit. Is that possible, even though it came out first? I don't know. But I heard Fluffy Duck and something about a maternity ward. And you hear that sort of thing in Dark Side of the Moon, but it's much more serious. So, all right. Already really enjoying this. Let's back it up just a few seconds and continue on. So I'm not sure if we're there yet. I'll try to signal this on the screen. I usually put it like here as to when we go to the next official track, even though it's all segue, which means all one together. So the next one is See There a Man is Born and Clear White Circles. So we'll get there when we get there. Okay, here we go.
In the clear white circles of morning wonder, I take my place with the Lord of the Hills, and the blue-eyed soldiers stand slightly discolored in neat little rows sporting canvas frills. With the jock straps pinching, they slouch to attention whilst queuing for sarnies at the office canteen, singing how's your granny and a good old Ernie, coughed up a tenor on a premium on wing.
Okay, something changed there. All right, wow, this is way more mature. I'm going to use that word than part one. The sounds are more resonant and they're more complex. The flutters of the flute starting from over here, and then it wasn't even a clear gesture. It sort of dissipated, it decayed and went over here. And I don't remember hearing those kinds of effects so much on the previous part. Like it was more just kind of in your face. Take it as it is, where this is more sort of delicate and sneaky all at the same time. And really taking advantage of the different channels here, I guess is how that's recorded. I don't know, like left and right. It's almost making me go cross-eyed because it's really staying there. Like when the guitar came in, it was really here a lot. And the flute, and then really cool effects. I do like it a lot. But on headphones, it really makes you dizzy. All right. So I also heard some neat effects with his voice. So at one point I heard something like that. Instead of an actual vibrato, it was more of a deliberate gesture of some sort. What I think I really liked most about this section here, though, that I've heard so far is the guitar work. It really, really entered into some beautiful moments there, especially right before I stopped it. Very Spanish or, bolero kind of style. Just really beautiful. I really hope it comes back. I hope we hear more beauty ahead of us here. And then also the words. I do want to check out some of those words, though, because sometimes my ear goes to the music first and I miss some lyrics. All right, I really want to make sure I catch all of this. Okay, so I heard this. See there, a man is born, and we pronounce him fit for peace. There's a load lifted from his shoulders with the discovery of his disease. I still think it's interesting. See there, a man is born, and previously it was a son. Maturing, we will be geared to the average rather than the exceptional. 218 babies wearing nylons. The cats are on the upgrade in the clear white circles of morning wonder. I take my place with the Lord of the Hills. Wow. Oh, jockstraps pinching. Yeah. They slouch to attention. I think we are continuing on with what we were talking about before, and just the life of a man and the expectations of that person as they grow, the effects of society on that individual throughout their life. The words are really poetic and beautiful. All right, but we're going to continue on. So next is Legends and Believe in the Day. All right, I'm going to back it up and get into this. I think this is where it started. Something changed. It sounded really pretty. We'll see if that keeps up. Here we go.
Legends were the ancient tribal land, like cradled in the seagull's call, and all the promises they made around the sea. Signal for the crack of dawn, light the sun, light the sun. Do you believe in the day?
All right, I want to stop here so I'm going to forget. There's so much going on. If I wait to where I think this track ends, I'm going to forget because there's just so much happening. This is very smooth. It's very breathy, very dreamy. There's a little bit of echo in it, some reverb, resonance, like in his voice mainly. And I remember from part one, from side one, that resonance, it was almost kind of tubular, but it was with the percussion. But here, it seems it's like everywhere else. But I love all the little fluttery sounds. And he's even doing that with his vocals. So that's Anderson also on the flute. And so he's going, so it's like a measured flutter tongue. Flutter tongue is when you roll your tongue like that, but you play a note on the flute through it. I love that technique. But it was metered instead of just a flutter. But it was really fast. He's good at that. And it was just like everywhere. But then he was doing that with his voice, almost like a funny vibrato. Okay, once again, the guitar. Beautiful playing. Beautiful playing. like Spanish guitar. I love it. It's not just finger picking. There's more to it. The backwards, like the upwards motion of strumming the chord. I love that usage in there. It's just beautiful. And it's almost like there was rubato. That's where the tempo of a piece seems to slow down and then speed up, but it doesn't lose time. It just happens within the phrase, but it all kind of balances out at the end. I noticed a few moments like that in there with the guitar. And then with all of this fluttery stuff all the way around. And then it sounded like a keyboard of some kind. Oh, the harpsichord sound. And to me, that was like a really fast version from part one. That awesome, really high keyboard, the piano sound, da 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 dum bum ba 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 bum bum, that was right at the end. I thought that was kind of the star of the show, right at the end of part one. This was like a faster harpsichord version of that. What else? Heard the organ in there, and then there was this sort of bowed sound, like a string instrument, zoom, vroom, but I'm sure it's some kind of also like a keyboard or something. I don't know. Wow, very, very creative. Also, everything is just really fast. Like all the drumming in the previous section leading up to this, it was just like twice as many notes, and then the big pauses. Interesting. Okay, let's keep going. change there. It's all right. We'll figure it out. It's okay. It's all part of the experience here. I mean, where do you catch your breath, right? You have to set a good pace. You can't sprint through the whole thing. This is a bit of a jog here, I think, in this section. However, that's funny because I was picturing it more like a march. It sounded like a march. But there is a definite motif in this part that I have absolutely picked up on, and I think it's so creative because it's being stretched to its absolute limits, and it's just simply the quick repetitive notes. This motif comes through everywhere, in every instrument just about. Even in the guitar, it's just spread out over different strings. But the percussion, definitely, just definitely. And then that little cymbal thing after the pause section, where it was twice and then 3 times. But in the flute and in his vibrato, and then this whole section, like with the snare, bum, 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 bum. So I've been saying bolero, and even with listening to part 1, I've had Ravel's bolero in my head the whole time. There are some of the chord structures that sound like it, but this is even more so. And that's really interesting because if you know the story behind Ravel with bolero, it's a great piece, but he didn't really want to be known for that piece. And if you listen to some of his other works, his orchestral works, or the Ravel String Quartet, beautiful. And bolero was a step to the side, adjacent to what he wanted to do, but he knew he could do it. It's like he had to do it. It was an itch that he had to scratch, but it took off so much and everyone loved it. And he was like, all right, there were some lyrics that I need to go back and give some attention to. Legends and believe in the day. Okay, the legends worded in the ancient tribal hymn, lie cradled in the seagull's call. Okay, I heard the seagulls. I did hear that. Okay, all the little synthesizer sounds, they were so cool. And it got really, really tiny and quiet for a while too. Just like a hush. It's so cool. Okay, sorry, got really excited about that. And all the promises they made are ground beneath the sage's fall. The poet and the wise man stand. Again, those are nods to side 1. Love it. To part 1. Light the sun, light the sun. Do you believe in the day? The dawn creation of the kings has begun, has begun. The fading hero has returned and fully pregnant with the day. Oh, I love that. The night, pregnant with the day. The wise men endorse the poet's sight. Beautiful. Wow, wise men endorse the poet's sight. So I still believe that this has to do with the maturing of a person. And so is that speaking of how the days go by and that maybe they're getting some validation in how they've lived their lives? Like the beauty that they've seen, that they've witnessed in their life was worth something, maybe? Wise men endorse the poet's sight. Well, I think it's time to move on to Tales of Your Life, which would fit into what I was just saying. Someone's life, their experiences. Tales of your life. Okay.
Let me tell you the
I'm going to rewind this a little bit. I've got to hear some of this over again. So we're going to go back just a tiny bit. But first, I'm hearing more of that main motif. And I also love how it has more of the subito piano. I believe I brought that up in part 1, where it just goes. You can always tell a good ensemble because they don't just know how to play loud, they can play really softly too. So we're definitely hearing that. More duets, heard the little harpsichord thing, heard some timpani, heard a bell. I think we heard some cowbell. Can always use more cowbell. Okay, and then the flute. The good old jazz flute playing, the breathy, overtoned playing of that flute. I have been waiting to hear that, and here it is. Finally. I love this. And the polymeters and the just it's so complex. All right, let's back it up a little bit. I want to hear some of this again.
Castles kindly state the time of the year and join your voices in a hellish chorus, mark the precise nature of the affair. To pick up your dead as the sins of the fathers are fed with the blood of the fools and the thoughts of the wise, and from the pen under your bed. Well, let me make you a present of song as the wise man breaks wind and is gone, while the fool with the hourglass is cooking his goose and the nursery rhyme winds along. Castles kindly state the time of the year and join your voices in the hellish chorus, mark the precise nature of your fear. See the summer lightning cast its bolts upon you, and the hour of judgment draweth near. Would you be the fool stoop in the suit of armor of the wiser man who rushes clear?
Okay, well, that was different. All right, something got zipped up or unzipped, or I don't know. Whew. Okay, that one was an adventure, this last little section. So telling the tales of your life. Well, they were maybe some exciting tales. The timpani, I was getting a kick out of that. So boom, boom. But then before that, it was boom, like that. And I thought, is that just one strike on the timpani and then you use the pedal and you push it down, it goes boom? Is that, or lift it up? Is that what they were doing? But it was a little bit of that. It might have been a little bit of the pedal work, but then also using the mouth, but then later on, there was just a full-on boom. I was like, all right, thank you for scratching that itch. I wanted to hear that. The vocals came through. I was also kind of waiting to hear his vocals, like, just really have him belt it out. And we finally got that. And then he said something about join voices, and then his voice was doubled. I love the little Tinkerbell duets with the flute and that little harpsichord sound, and so many different textures happening here. And again, how do they keep this straight? How do they keep all of these key changes, not the key changes, but the time signature changes? How do they keep it all straight? Because I know that this was performed live. Mastery, I'm telling you. All right, I want to see what these tales were. Let me tell you the tales of your life, of your love, and the cut of the knife. Wow, the pavements are empty, the gutters run red. So come all ye young men who are building castles. Once again, I heard castles. There were some castles being mentioned in part 1. Kindly state the time of year and join your voices in a hellish chorus. That's when his voice was doubled. Mark the precise nature of your fear. The blood of the fools. Wow, from the pan under your bed. Well, let me make you a present of song as the wise man breaks wind and is gone, while the fool with the hourglass is cooking his goose, and the nursery rhyme winds along. Interesting. I did hear something about nursery rhyme. The summer lightning casts its bolts upon you. Would you be the fool stood in his suit of armor, or the wiser man who rushes clear? Is this sort of a give peace a chance moment? So those are some tales, battles that have been fought or chosen not to be fought. I could hear the battle work. I could hear the battles. Boom, boom. Yep, okay. All right. So I think we're on to the last track of this. So now we have Childhood Heroes reprise. So is this more reflection on one's life? Let's back it up. I want to hear that weird transition. It was super weird. I loved it. Here we go.
The wiser man rushes clear. So come on, you childhood hero. So you ride yourselves over the fields, and you make all your animal deals, and your wise men don't know how it feels to be thick as a brick.
Well, that was really satisfying. I loved the ending. It really came full circle, and that he ended with saying thick as a brick and kind of chuckled with it as he said it. And that that theme came back, but it was a little slower. And because of that, he was able to add more of that motif that I was hearing all through this part. So he was going, it was his vibrato, but I know that his vibrato, he has more control over it. I don't think that the speed of his vibrato was just happening to be the same tempo in the ending here. I really believe, and I could be wrong, but I want to believe that he was making his vibrato measured. Okay, and y'all know what I'm getting ready to say, the strings. So first of all, there was a violin in part 1. I thought I was completely imagining it, but apparently there actually was. So, not my imagination. It was just so subtle. Okay, but this you cannot deny. It was beautiful. Now, I could just be very simplistic here and say that that part was my favorite part. Well, yeah, okay, maybe it was. But also not, because that would be too easy. But it really did come out of nowhere. What in the world? So many tricks. It makes me think, what would this whole thing be if it was turned into a string work, like for small chamber orchestra? That would actually be really fun. Does that exist somewhere? Maybe I should think about doing a string arrangement. That would be really fun. Not just to write, but to play. But really though, the rest of this part, all of part 2, it was full of little surprises. Even the subito pianos, really, really quiet. And all of the little sounds and the extra timpani. I thought it was like we were headed towards Pet Sounds, which is another album that I've done on the channel, the full album, Dark Side of the Moon, Pet Sounds. And also working on Boston, by Boston. But so many flavors, all of that percussion, the timpani, the bells, chimes, the bicycle bell, the cowbell, lots of bells. And then that driving motif. So I'm not going to say that the string part was my favorite part. Again, that's too easy. I'm going to say it was the guitar. The first time the guitar came in this part, in part 2. And because of that, when it came back in at the end, I was like, oh. I have to go back to that string section though. Y'all know I have to hear it. All right, here we go. I love that echo. You think this is a new groove starting, but then it does this. Lovely. Good string section. So great. Also, I was happy to hear there was kind of a good old guitar solo, like a good guitar duet here at the end. Excellent. But that little string section, that would also be fun to play. Okay, let's hear it again. Okay, so I think it is. That's a fun line. And then and it goes up an octave. Let's see. Okay, I don't have time to get all the notes here, but that was fun enough. Okay, so that was Thick as a Brick, Part 2. The brick is complete. I get the humor, I get the mastery, I get the poeticism, I get the creative instrumentation, even got to play a few notes. I love all of the different facets, the different styles, jazz, blues, folk, hard rock, prog rock, a little bit of classical, especially like early music, but then thick as a brick. I mean, we know what that saying means. A little stubborn, maybe at times even a little dumb. So does it mean that we have lots of lessons to learn, or that we should be reflecting on lessons that we learn, try to be as open-minded as possible, or that humanity is just too stubborn? I think it's open to interpretation. But the idea of making fun of a concept album with a concept album is a great concept. I love it. So, will this go on my playlist? Yes, it absolutely will. Will there be certain moments of this that I would gravitate to? Yeah, like the guitar work, the ending. As far as side against side, part against part one against part two, which one do I like better? Is there a way to choose? I don't know if you can choose. Do we need to choose? I don't think so. I think we can just start at the beginning and push play. But I love how there were some central themes that were carried throughout across both parts, and how the second part seemed a little bit more chaotic, a little thicker. So I think maybe that's what I'm going to take away from this, is that it seems chaotic, but there is something there to ground us, something that we can all agree on, identify with. Like, we're all different, but we're all kind of the same. But we're all kind of stubborn. Welcome to the human race. Okay, so thank you for joining me on this fantastic adventure. If you haven't seen part 1, you can go check it out. But, as I always say, just remember that you don't have to be perfect. Just be okay. And keep listening.